Now, ladies, hello. Hello, and welcome to the never-ending Career by Design series, which is the second in the row. We started last year with the webinars on LinkedIn all about career management. Today, we have the second session with our wonderful guest, Viola, who will have the chance to introduce herself in a second. Viola was with us like a couple of weeks ago, and we were discussing transitioning to a new job with confidence. The way this series is laid out is that we start with a couple of principles, a little bit of theory, and a little bit of a discussion on a topic, a vital topic. And the second phase to it is always a discussion with an expert, someone who has been there, has done it, with a senior person with a lot of achievements. And this person is giving us a little bit more flavor on the practicalities of the things that we are talking about. So Viola was with us a couple of weeks ago, and we had so much to ask Viola about, and she had so much to say, which is no wonder that we didn't finish. So today we are going to continue, and I will go very quickly through the slides that we have covered so that everybody has a context, and then I will hand over to Viola as quickly as possible so that we will have a chance to cover the whole topic today. Is that okay?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Sure. No better person, no better woman. So the agenda is as mentioned. I'm not going to go through it again. We will just have a couple of minutes for Viola to introduce herself. And as for me, in this very format, some of you know me already. I am corporate banking and financial services veteran with more than 25 years now of experience in financial services globally. A lot of those years at senior executive positions, and a couple of years ago I pivoted to coaching, and what I'm now doing, and what I have always been passionate about is helping women high achievers to take the next step in their career. And this is it could be a new role, a bigger platform, a promotion, or a better remuneration. And within this role, I'm hosting those webinars on LinkedIn to share the knowledge with others. Now, that's me. And now is our wonderful host, Viola. Over to you.
Hello, thank you very much, Isabella. Thank you for having me. It's a privilege to speak to your audience because I know they're very dedicated and interested and active in the area of career design. My background is mainly in business management, financial management, leadership and senior roles, supporting the executives or the heads of service directors. I worked for nearly 2 decades in UK government, and I also set up and run a supplementary school for children, preparing them to GCSEs and A-levels, the pre-university qualifications in UK. I currently work closely with the university here in Wrocław in Poland, Merito University. And I've taken several different roles because I like variety. And I teach, I lecture. I also run a students club, which I might mention later as an example for one of the role transitioning that I did. And I coach and mentor not only students, but also individuals who are interested in development, change of career, overcoming personal challenges. So as a qualified coach in business, I also support my clients in transitioning to different businesses or opening businesses.
Lovely. So you see, no better woman to talk about transitions and transitioning to a new role with confidence. Perfect. Thank you for your time, Viola, today. So a couple of themes from our previous sessions. One which was talking about transitions as such, and the other one where Viola was presenting her experience. We were talking about the key theme in transitions, which is identifying your non-negotiables. And this is because oftentimes especially when we lose job and we lose one role, we are immediately jumping into another one, trying to get something as soon as possible. And this is usually via applying for any open positions that would be close to what we want to do, or what we are qualified to do, or what we were doing previously. Whereas our approach here is that before you jump anywhere, before you jump into a new role, before you get promoted, or before you pivot, do identify your non-negotiables. What is it that you will not be doing, that you will not be compromising, and that you will not be going for, even if it meant not having a job or not having a role for a while? And the non-negotiables, one of the examples were like, some people will never work for companies that they deem unethical, for example, or something much more practical. Some people will not be working for companies who don't accept working from home. So there are all kinds of things, and especially for women who have families and children, there are a couple of completely different challenges that they are dealing with. Therefore, based on those challenges, they may think about their non-negotiables. That's very, very important. Once we know what we are worth, what we are accepting, what we are not accepting, and what is our next step, our dream role and dream position, or the promotion that we are waiting for, there is always a confidence, or always or very often a confidence gap, and we were discussing how to bridge it, especially when we want to pivot or transition to something different. Even if it's a different role, there is always this lingering feeling of, maybe I'm not good enough. And what if they discover that I'm not good enough? This imposter syndrome is creeping in. So that's what we were discussing. We were talking about strategic networking, which is always important before the transition, during the transition, after transition, always. And we were discussing the actionable strategies on how to build your support system and support network. Then we were touching upon the modern interview and showcasing your value. And the reason why I call it modern interview is because we of course we interview different to how we did it before. There are all kinds of new forms of interviewing, including AI now, and how to showcase your value and how to be seen in this noise around us. And of course, negotiating your worth, which is different to identifying your non-negotiables, although it can overlap, because one of your non-negotiables can be a certain level of remuneration. But negotiating your worth is something that especially women don't do a lot. And it is very, very important to secure the right package and to know how to do it. So they were the key themes. And of course, once we have it all, the onboarding with intention is also important, setting yourself up for success the first 90 days in your job, which usually starts before you even start the new position or the new role or the transfer or transition. So that's important too. Last time we spoke with Viola on the first three. I think we also touched upon, no, we didn't touch upon the mastering of the modern interview. We're talking about strategic network. So let's jump to the next phase, Viola, if you don't mind. I will skip the non-negotiables because this one we covered, the network as well, and showcasing your value is something that will be coming in next. So let's go past theme 1, past theme 2 and theme 3. And for those of you who haven't seen the first part, please go back to the recording, because there is a recording of this awesome session, and you will then have a continuity of all those key themes. Now we're going straight into theme 4, which is continuing to showcase your value in this new capacity. And remember, we are talking about transitions. So Viola, 2 questions here for you. One is this modern interview, right? All about showcasing your value. So how can women continue to proactively demonstrate their value and the impact? And again, especially in the first initial months. So if you could talk in the context of your experience or someone you have mentored, that would be really, really awesome. And on top of that, of course, some effective strategies that people, or women especially, can apply to showcase their value and expertise, so that is recognized by the team and leadership. Over to you, Viola.
Yeah, very interesting question about how to continue to showcase, because all well said when you at the interview perform so well, convince your recruiters that you're the right job for the person, but then what's next? That dialogue kind of continues with different individuals taking part in it. And so for me, for example, once I was offered a position in the senior team as a business manager, whose role was to work across several services and support the head of the service. I wanted to know why they hired me, so I did ask for feedback after the interview. That gives you a information that you can utilize for yourself, but also in some strategic conversations, because now you not only are well aware that they value you, but also you've got more specific information why they value you. So, for example, we hired you for your experience, for your ability to connect people and have a bigger picture where you can shape the sort of communication and process, be the glue for those teams, and ensure the business behind the scene is running smoothly. So here you are, my argument. We're going to go to the next point of effective communication strategies. Would be, you hired me to glue the teams, to be the person that connects the dots. And here I am showing the value by referring to that set of skills. And for example, identifying the fact that, which was the real example from my role, that in the previous role, I've made some improvements that significantly raised efficiency of communication and keeping track on business as usual activities, which were far more consuming until we streamlined it. And I see that here in this team, that could also help if we perhaps introduced a few changes. Would you be open hearing about it? And so you showing not only what you have been hired for directly, but also initiative that you can link to your story from the past and your experience that can benefit the team here and now. So that's within the realm of your role. That's the scope of your job. So nothing really surprising. But if you want to go extra mile and shine in your expertise and add value, which is what we're talking about, you could go beyond your level of responsibilities and take initiative in areas where you perhaps are interested and still have transferable skills, or maybe some experience from another area of work or activities. And it may not be strictly your job to do that, or might not be strictly specified in your list of responsibilities, but you have interest in that. You've noticed the need, you have identified benefit in your team, and now you're bringing this up because you can see that you can contribute. In my case, what I was always enjoying and was interested in is to design and deliver trainings to upskill my team or colleagues working across the team, so not only with my reports. And so when I joined this new team, I realized that there's a lot of managers, middle level managers, who are tasked with small projects, pieces of work that have start and end, but they have absolutely no clue how to manage projects. They don't know any frameworks. They don't treat it like a project. And as a result, there was a lot of miscommunication, quite a bit of time resource wasted. So uh, I have offered to put together a training and a framework strategically discussed with my seniors to upskill those who are working with small projects or medium-sized projects, to give them that foundation which perhaps they didn't have, and learn on the job or not at all, or maybe copied bad practice. And so for me, it was not only showing my initiative and contributing to the team, but it was also fulfilling my need, because I do wanted to develop in training, in delivering workshops, and in designing that sort of piece of work. And I think I found a way to reach the point where both parties would benefit from it. So then when there were other sort of situations where an identification of training needs was required, my senior already were aware that I had that set of skills and could deploy me to do that. So that's showing an extra value.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing. And I really love the way you said it. That I think this is an important aspect to always ask, why did you hire me? I really love it because this immediately, of course, they should hire you because you are the best. But once they do, it's important to ask this question, because this will give you the flavor and the feeling of what they value most. And then based on this, you know exactly which way to go and how to operate, and what to capitalize on and what to develop. And I also love this extra mile thing, because it means you're going much beyond what your own remit is. But this is how you are showcasing value, helping others, and then building your network and building your based on your added value, building much beyond your role. So that's really cool. Thank you for sharing. And I think, Marta, especially for you now, when you are in between roles, it's based on what Viola said, adding value. Why did you hire me, and where the value is? Showcasing your value starts even before you start working in this new role, because it's best to prepare as soon as possible. Once you know where you're going, it's better to prepare immediately, so that you hit the ground running the very first day when you are there. And then you can start adding value very quickly, as opposed to what everybody else is doing, joining the company and then spend another month to, onboarding yourself or to get onboarded. It's a separate topic on how to manage the first 90 days, but yeah, I thought this would be an interesting thing to add. Thank you, Viola. Let's go to the next one, which is renegotiating or advocating for your worth in the new landscape. I love this one. I must say, I really love this one, because we rarely negotiate. And there are two aspects here. One is the initial package. So the question is, do we negotiate the package? How do we negotiate the package? How do we negotiate our worth to begin with? And then, when it might be appropriate to revisit the conversation about the compensation, when it is not too late. I recently had a client with whom we were trying to revisit her remuneration, the salary increase, right after the process. and she had awesome arguments for it. But the answer was, sorry, ladies, the answer was, that's too late. Now it's too late. Let's have this conversation sooner. Now, it's a very comfortable thing to say by the line manager. Oh, it's already too late. You should have told me sooner. No, I couldn't have told you sooner because I didn't know what I was getting. But in order to avoid this conversation, I think we should think about it much sooner than when the process is restarting. So I would like to ask you, Viola, do you have any, I'm sure you do, uh, experience with negotiating your worth, renegotiating your worth, coaching and mentoring your colleagues and your clients to do this? And how, what would you say on how to approach those conversations? What advice would you give for women who, especially when they discover discrepancies in their organizations, how would you advise them to proceed, please?
Hmm. Discrepancies, that's a tricky one. And I've got a really, I think, illustrative example from my personal experience. But would you allow me, if that's okay, to retract slightly because I'm conscious that I have not spelled out uh, about the effective communication strategies when you
Absolutely.
articulate, your contribution expertise. Very briefly,
Sure.
one of there are several communication strategies. Communication is the art anyway, so there is no science formula that we're gonna prescribe. But apart from connecting the dots between what you've done and how is that relevant to your work or to objectives of the team, um, you what I find really a great strategy is to use this one of the coaching tools, which is I statement, where you strip it from emotions. You begin with I, and you basically say what your needs are, and what you want effectively in a very friendly, polite, and professional language. Example of this would be um, instead of saying, which happened to me, why wasn't I given that project? This is very up my street. This is why you hired me. How come I didn't get that project or I'm not involved in that project? With the I statement, you begin with, I appreciate that you hired me for my set of skills and what I bring to the team. But when the project was allocated and I was not involved or given a role, it felt like I was overlooked. So I'm stating what benefits that would be for you, but also I am affirming my position that I felt. You can't argue with how I felt. You can disagree, but you can't tell me how I feel. So the fact that I felt overlooked is a fact, and that's my impression, which other person usually respects. It's not accusing in accusing tone. It doesn't come across, hopefully, full of negative emotions and maybe irritation, which always triggers defensiveness in your speaker. So that's my a very well tested and reliant strategy I statement. And then the second one, as I mentioned before, when you connect your story, what you've done previously or somewhere else or successfully, with the story of your current team, current position, how you can help this outcomes to be even better, because you've already done it before, so you can do it again. So that's a little sideway to the previous topic. In terms of negotiation, uh, I don't know whether you've come across negotiation rule that never accept the first offer, and the first offer should never be your best offer if you want to have negotiation. If not, then obviously you're gonna just give one offer and that's it. But from our perspective, women in a role that turns out to be rewarded differently, or the package has discrepancy with what we've been originally informed or offered. For me, it comes down to gathering facts and mentioned before, stripping it from emotions. So it's important what language we use when we communicate in those situations. And therefore, I do like to give it a little thought how I'm going to say it. What is it gonna sound like if I say it that way or this way? But in terms of when to bring it up, it will vary, obviously. But generally, you want it to be at the scheduled time that is not disrupted by ad hoc conversations, visits, etc. So if you're gonna talk to a person about those discrepancies, it is going to be a difficult conversation, perhaps from your perspective. Therefore, you need safe space. So you want a dedicated time. You want an appointment, not mentioning in passing while waiting for a coffee machine to brew the coffee. So I would formalize it, that's for sure, because it brings weight to the conversation, and the more significance you place on that, the better chances that you will be taken also seriously in that conversation. And after probation is a good time to talk about pay rise or changes to the package, providing that your probation went well and that you have some evidence that what you've achieved is perhaps not only expected, but perhaps is beyond that, and therefore it justifies something extra. It's not always about extra money, is it? Sometimes we negotiate elements of packages, perks, or privileges that are important to us, like flexibility, like working from home. For me, for example, I stepped in during the period where there was a change to leadership, a senior management team. There were some resignations and temporary filling in, etc. So I've taken responsibility around certain financial tasks. And when the new senior settled and started kind of redesigning and looking at the roles with a fresh eye, she wanted me to manage one of the budgets alongside my other senior colleagues. That wouldn't be a problem. However, my other senior colleagues were a few grades above me, and my role was, as it is officially listed, stated in the job specification, was to support the leadership in financial management, in budget management, as a supportive role, overlooking role, but not as a budget management, as a budget manager. That had a significance for me because not because I didn't want to manage the budgets, but because there was a set of responsibilities and remuneration that was linked to it. So my negotiation with the senior was about either I am brought up to the level of other seniors who manage the budget, or I stay within my supportive role. But I'm not prepared to work at the level that is not recognized for what it is. So, so this is an example where there was a discrepancy, and if you come across a discrepancy that matters to you, my strong advice is do not ignore it and do not postpone it. So just do the homework and prepare to have a conversation, but certainly it needs to be addressed in order to be dealt with, because if it is left and swept under the carpet, it will not resolve itself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the insightful comments, Viola. I really love the way you said, after your probation, do sit down, revisit your achievements, and then go and talk to them again. I just want to say that, of course, the pivotal moment, the most important one, is when you start negotiating. As Viola said, everybody should never accept the first offer, because after 3 months, you also should, you could and should renegotiate, but then it's only a couple of percentage, a couple of thousands, or maybe some percentage, no matter where, depending on where you're starting from. But the best outcomes are always at the beginning, because this is where you will set the bar, if you like, and everything else will be coming from that bar. So as Viola says, do negotiate always. My personal strategy is never come up with your first with your expectations, as most companies ask, what is your salary expectation, what is your current salary. It's none of their business what is your current salary, because you are not going for your current role, you are going for a different role. And then what is your expectation? It depends on the mandate. It depends on the scope of responsibilities. Let them share their budget first, because you will be in the better position. It's sometimes easier said than done, but it's also doable. About what Viola said about discrepancies, it's important as well. Once you notice, and it's unfortunately oftentimes discrepancies between male and female, but once you notice that, it's of course has to be brought up, because most companies are showing and they're they're showcasing their inclusivity and diversity and inclusion compliance and everything else, but when it comes to the real figures, it's oftentimes not that rosy. And the last thing that I wanted to share with you, because I thought this was an interesting one, one of my clients, and we literally had a discussion this morning, she was up for a promotion which she got, and hoping for a pay rise. Not hoping, we were working for the pay rise, but we kind of knew that in her situation it may be just a cosmetic type of pay rise in going to that level, because she was already working at the level and operating at that level. But we were going as far as we could. And what happened eventually, and this is something that I never thought we should also be prepared for, but it appears we should. She came back to me and said, Isabella, I didn't negotiate anything because I got much more than I thought I would. And that was a brilliant surprise. This one doesn't happen very often, but it only shows us that that it can happen, and it does happen. Once you know your worth, just never set a ceiling for yourself. Keep the conversation open. And you see, in this case, if this client of mine, if she was coming up and asking herself about the pay rise and maybe giving an example of what she believes she should get, then she would be much worse off than she is now, when she got something that she never expected. Now, thank you, Viola.
Can I add?
Yes.
Very briefly? One of the, because this is a big topic, and I know that in your future plans you've got a session dedicated negotiations.
Correct.
But I think at this point might be useful to mention that when you renegotiating or negotiating your remuneration or your package, your rewards, apart from those two a few more rules that we mentioned. It's worth also linking the values of the company they work for with the worth or the values that you bring into the team, because that is putting the ball in their court and holding the mirror against them by saying, this organization values ABC, and this is what I have provided in the form this and the other. So making the link between what the company claims to be or strives to be in terms of image, values, and mission, and how that relates to you. For example, you pride yourself in generous remuneration. I have looked at the equivalent roles in the market, and I'm afraid it appears that my role's remuneration is coming under by 5%, 10%, etc. So that's a point I wanted to share. And also in terms of time, it's also very useful to look at if there was an intense period of whatever kind of change, or perhaps period where you were tasked with different roles, perhaps when you went extra mile or you work on a project beyond what you normally are expected to do. Anytime in your career, if there is justification for revisiting your package, is a good time to do so, not only after probation, but anytime during. If the company changed the leadership or changed the direction or expanded or shrank or any of those, if you keep an eye on it and make connection between your contribution and your value, that would be a signal to review or maybe at least rethink your package.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Viola, for this. Now, key theme 6. Evolving your onboarding with intention in the long term. Yes, and that's the last one, because we discussed initial onboarding. We were talking about the non-negotiables. We were talking about the first 90 days, which start well before we start in our role. But how can we continue to be intentional about our growth, the development, beyond the initial onboarding period in this new role? And this specifically what I refer Viola and others here to is how can we showcase, deliver, make sure that our brand is recognized, our personal brand, and at the same time that we don't put our jobs before our careers. So how do we not only care about our jobs, but also about our career and our further advancement? So with that, Viola, I would like to ask you, what are some proactive steps that women can take? First of all, to seek feedback, to identify areas for development, because I'm not a fan of areas of development. I always believe in building on strengths, but of course there are sometimes areas for development as well. And last but not least, how they can advocate for their ongoing learning and advancement within this new organization. Please, Viola.
Well, a long-term development or growth obviously requires a certain awareness of direction. So this is where you come in. Your expertise in coaching and designing a career is what will enable people to have that plan. So now, if you know where you're going with your career, you are in a position to easily identify what you need, what you already have, resources you have, but also the gaps. And if you know what your gaps are, then you can then decide, okay, what do I need to fill that gap? And it's not always in the organization that you currently work for. So that's the point that sometimes it's not uh, easy to agree with that I've landed that job or I've worked for that organization for such a long time. I've been just promoted, but actually, there are certain things that they can't provide me. It doesn't mean that you need to quit and now suddenly find another job. It just means that you need to think where you can get those resources, those opportunities, and maybe combine them. Why I say that? Because that was my experience. I was progressing in my organization, but there were a couple of areas that I couldn't find opportunity to grow any further. One of them was a uh, the training and designing training for a sort of bigger audience and train in things that I wanted to train. That's why I jumped on that opportunity with the project management training, and also managing finance um, in the context of working with the accountants and financial teams. So those opportunities were not there of the quality that I wanted. Um, I have um, I have always kept eye on development opportunities, but when, for example, I joined this organization at the university, I have changed my priorities and now I want my career to go a different direction. And I'm looking for opportunities in that context. So for example, although I was initially hired to lecture and teach undergraduate and graduate courses, I have identified an opportunity to put initiative in place for students to expand their language skills and set up a student club. So for me, that training has been fulfilled through the format of regular meetings with students and supporting them, teaching them, coaching them, etc. That wasn't in my job description to run a student club, but I have identified that as something that the organization would benefit from and something that would meet my career needs as a trainer, as a coach. And I've offered that project to be established and run, and it was very welcomed, and that's what I do now alongside teaching. So indirectly, that hopefully answered the question. Beyond onboarding, you're keeping an eye on development opportunities and knowing where you want to develop, in what area or what set of skills you want to acquire. You either take advantage of those, and remember, no one who begins a new role is expected to have all the corners covered, and you do not need to know everything. Therefore, there will be areas where you want to develop and learn new skills. If you identify them yourself and you come forward with a um, um, a suggestion or an inquiry, that's always well received, rather than your superior identifies your gap in your skill or your development and then um, uh, points you to where you need to fill them in. So from that perspective, I would say, keep your eyes open, look out for those opportunities, or try to create them yourself by bringing forward what you want and what company needs. So if you combine those two, then there is a win-win.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the way you said it. Do combine it with the value you bring to the organization. So if you, whatever you are negotiating for identifying opportunities for yourself, if you tie it to what the company, to the company's strategy, what it can bring to the company. And as you said, this training will help me and will help the company. This new role that I come up with or new idea will help me, but also them, because something will come up that will be very beneficial for the organization. So that's probably the best way, because there is a win-win here. But I also liked when you said do it sooner rather than later, do it early, as soon as you see it, because that's it gives you a competitive advantage, if you like, rather than before it is spotted by your employer. And Viola, last but not least, because I know you have a bonus round for us at the end, but before we go to your bonus, would you please give us one key piece of advice that you would give to a high achieving woman stepping into a new role? Say Eva is here, she's a high achieving unstoppable lady, and she will soon be stepping into a new role. So what would you say to Eva and her alike, women like her, to ensure she transitions with maximum confidence and sets herself up for long-term success? And the reason why I'm asking this and quoting Eva is because, especially when we don't have a role now, or if we are coming from a difficult environment, it's really difficult to keep this confidence and to be very, very confident stepping into the negotiations and into the new role. So what is your advice for her at the end, Viola, please?
Oh, my dear, the way you framed this question actually made me think of the third piece of advice. So I always have this two staple advice pieces which follow me everywhere, which is to invest in yourself and invest in building relationships with others. These never let me down. But the third piece is to you know what? It just my mind went blank now.
So you have no advice for Eva. I'm sure you have loads. But the third
I have it. So this, oh my gosh, this two pieces, I always give this advice to myself and to others, which is to invest in yourself and invest in building relationships, because with the relationships, we hear it over and over again, and it's true. Yeah, I so many times benefited from building relationships which I have not built intentionally, but I've just invested in them because I just enjoy building relationships.
And I know I
But
know
the third piece of
absolutely,
advice, Eva, I think you're gonna have to ask me later when it comes back to me, because
yeah.
completely my mind blanked out completely for a
Okay, so
second.
maybe it comes back now, because I think what you said on those two, and this is for everybody, everybody, not only Eva and people who are transitioning or looking to transition, but I think it's spot on, or what you said: invest in yourself and invest in relationship. And when I start with the latter, investing in a relationship, in relationship being our network, it's an ongoing process, ongoing, because the more we invest now when we don't need those relationships, the more important and beneficial they will be for us when we need them. And when we say, I'm sure you agree, Vi, that when we invest in our relationship, what it means really is to make it a win-win. Investing being not only wanting something from someone all the time, but also giving back. That's the investment. This is how you build relationship, based on trust and not on this reciprocity. And the former that you mentioned, invest in yourself, it does sound like a sales pitch, especially when I'm saying this, or do invest in yourself, and coaching and mentoring is very, very important. But it actually is. It is, because we all, and I'm sure you heard me saying that I have two coaches now. I have always had a coach, or maybe not always, but for so many years. Because we often tend to be in our all information bubbles, or what I like to call tunnels, and we don't see things that others see. So it's important to have someone who will help us and guide us through the process, because they see a different perspective, and they see it a different way. They help us build a path a roadmap and to guide us through the roadmap. So if you have a good mentor, a good coach, if you know of a good coach, do invest. And then this will, once you find someone who you really want to work with, this will definitely pay back. And Viola, I'm sure the third one came back to you, right?
Yes. I could share something though on the topic of having a coach and mentor, because
Mhm.
at different points in our lives, we may or may not know one or be able to engage with one. There is another form that is quite close to that, which is to be part of a mastermind, to be a part of the very targeted and deliberately set up network. And I'm not talking about the big business networks or professional networks where you go into the venue and you mingle with dozens of people and you only get to know them superficially because of the time. But the kind of a small group of mastermind colleagues and and those groups are available through various media channels, but also physical locations where you can start with attending a network meeting and then form a smaller group, which is a fantastic support system for those who perhaps can't engage with one-to-one at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. But and I will give you your turn back, Viola, now for your bonus. Just one more thing, because you said it really well. If you can't find it, do look around, because we need to get out of our, oh, I have a problem, I don't have a job, or I need another job, or I need to transition and so on. What will I do? To where is the solution? Where are the people? What is out there? How I can get in touch with them? Viola, over to you now with your bonus, because we are almost at the top of the hour. But again, before I do, I'm sorry. Eva, do you have any questions for us at this stage? Because we've been quoting you all the time unfairly, and you didn't have a chance to to ask any question or to tell us. Just stop talking about me all the time.
Hey, thank you very much for a very insightful presentation and for mentioning me all the time. I'm actually surprised because I was expecting more participants today, but now I'm kind of on the podium. At the moment, I do not have any further questions, but I will definitely follow up with yourself, Isabella, if that's okay. And then again, thank you very much for the valuable tips, because yeah, you are right that it's very challenging to remain to be confident when you are searching for the job and you are receiving lots of emails without any further feedback why they are not choosing you. And then there is a moment that when you give up, but then after a few days, like, okay, I need to try harder and I need to try more. So yeah, I will get in touch with you, Isabella. I will find a free spot when we can chat a bit, and then yeah, thank you very much.
Perfect. And don't go anywhere ever just yet, because Viola has this bonus. And just one comment on your, we know there will be a lot of more people registered for us to send them the recording. So that's the way we have it, that people do register. We know they cannot be live here, but they will be sending the recording, and we always have a fantastic feedback. So hence we know that this is really resonating with people. Viola, off to you.
Oh, thank you. It's very kind. And just one digression to what Eva said. What helps me when I am coming across rejections, I have this mantra. I say rejection is protection, because I need to get to this best job or best suitable project or whatever. That's why I've had to be rejected for other things in order to steer myself into that one thing that is ideal. So rejection is protection, and that helps a little bit.
Yeah.
So I wanted to say again a massive thank you for giving me this stage, for trusting me with your audience. And so as a thank you, I want to tell you that I've got a gift for all the listeners. Apart from the information that I work with clients using the positive intelligence framework, and they are very welcome to join my mental fitness program. I want to offer those who decide to have a taste of what it is to work with positive intelligence, the PQ assessment, which I will carry out for free for all those your audience members who decide to book that 60-minute call with me, and the link to my calendar is shared in a chat, I believe. So during that 60 minutes, we can have a conversation about how the mental fitness program can strengthen your habits, your thinking processes based on the neuroflexibility of our brains, and how we can train your mental muscle the way we would train it in the gym if there were physical muscles. So you will find out, if I could have next slide, you will find about 9 different saboteurs and how the positive intelligence links with them. If you book that no obligation appointment with me today or tomorrow, you can cancel if you need to, or you can reschedule. So there's no obligation to keep that exact date. I'm flexible. I booked few slots for you for the next couple of weeks.
Oh, so Viola, that's important also because people will be listening with a delay, not necessarily today or tomorrow, but that refers to those who are listening to the replay as well, right?
Yes, if they say that they are from your audience, that I will honor the appointment, no problem.
Perfect, thank you so much.
That's the gift one.
Yeah.
If we could go to gift one. So that's the assessment and our meeting. It will look something like this. You will get a report. You will get some analysis of what your sort of positive intelligence profile looks like. And the next slide would show you another part of that report. And the slide that will follow is my extra bonus gift too, because people might have not heard of positive intelligence, and I'm very keen to spread the word because it's a fantastic way of working with yourself and others. I will gift you as a PDF the first 8 chapters of the book. The book is available in all outlets. You can purchase it through Amazon or any other book sellers. It's a fantastic piece of writing, and I highly recommend. But if you want to have a taste, the first 8 chapters as PDF will be yours if you book an appointment with me and we connect. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Viola. And I can confirm this is a fantastic program. This is a fantastic knowledge and absolutely beneficial. The book is, I was listening to the recording of the book, and it's amazing. It's life-changing. So everybody who wants to know more, please do avail of the fantastic gifts that Viola has brought with us today, on top of her free time and on top of her wisdom. Viola, thank you so much. All of you, thank you so much for listening, and do come back to the Career by Design series, and do come back to us the next week and the following weeks. Thank you so much, and see you next time.
Thank you very much too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.